This week on the 414, it's about content marketing, but specifically tailoring content for B2B audiences to improve audience engagement and accelerate sales. Hi, I'm James Rostance and welcome to the 414. Each week with some of the greatest and most interesting minds in marketing. Joining me today is a woman who specialises in content marketing for the B2B sector with a focus on buyer journeys. Welcome, Anu Ramani. It's a pleasure. So,
hi James, thanks for having me.
Could you start by giving me your take on how most marketers are approaching content marketing at the moment, but also how they might be dropping the ball in some way?
Sure. I think the answer is really simple. Marketers are doing a lot more of it. The buyer journey, which you just mentioned, hasn't changed. It's a classic, right? So there's awareness, then the prospect engages in information seeking, they gets into the consideration set and then completes the purchase. Now, what has changed is the way that these buyers are engaging with content through this journey now. They prefer to take a much longer time on their own researching content, looking for information, and get almost 2/3 of the way through the buyer journey before they ever want to pick up the phone or speak to a salesperson. So there's a huge opportunity for companies to touch base with customers, to build engagement, to build a relationship through relevant and engaging content. 8 in 10, I believe, tech B2B buyers want to look for personalized and engaging content before they talk to salespeople. And 9 in 10 tech B2B companies are actually going out there running content marketing campaigns to engage with these buyers. So a lot more of it is happening. What this naturally means is there's quite a lot of competition out there for your content, and the opportunity there is to differentiate, to make it relevant, engaging, and really build that relationship.
What would you see as the way forward, and what would you advise marketers to pay particular attention to?
Personalization. Personalization is the #1 trend, I think, that is reshaping content marketing at the moment. What is happening is that our behaviors as consumers is bleeding into the way we consume content in a B2B setting. Let me explain. So we are used to, we all have Netflix, don't we? No two Netflix home screens are alike. Every person's Netflix home screen is completely tailored to the way they consume content, to what they have done before, and to their preferences. Amazon, Spotify, all of these brands that we engage with, technology brands we engage with, are making us addicted to extremely personalized and relevant content. So we become impatient with content that doesn't absolutely match our needs and our stage in the buying process. The good news is that the technology is there now. There's personalization software, marketing automation software, and very clever ways that these technologies play with each other that allow marketers to serve absolutely relevant content that helps people through their buyer journey.
I've heard you speak before about championing collaboration. Could you share your thoughts on that?
Yeah, of course. Well, the music industry, right, is an absolutely great example of how collaboration works. Right from the Beatles, and now we've got Ed Sheeran, Justin Bieber, we've got Beyonce, everybody collaborates. That's because artists have realized that putting two voices together creates better magic sometimes. And this is exactly the same case for B2B brands. Budgets are stretched, resources are stretched. So working together in collaboration with a different company within your ecosystem extends your reach, allows you to gain a halo effect, provides a unique and a more different perspective, It helps you to reach new audiences. There's just a range of benefits of doing collaboration with different brands within your ecosystem. We all know that collaboration is a pain. As marketers, it's hard enough to create content for your own company, the approval processes, all of those things that need to be done. And it's harder when you're doing it with a different company. But in my opinion, the benefits far outweigh the costs of it. More brands should consider doing collaborative content, collaborative marketing initiatives, and I think the fallout is positive,
well,
not only for the brands but for the consumer as well.
Is that influencer marketing in the B2C world is huge, but yeah, as you touched, in the B2B world, not so much. So what would you recommend and advise for an approach in working with influencers?
Well, you're right. You think influencer marketing, you think B2C, because and celebrities have really nailed, I think, the fine art of using social media, using Instagram, Twitter, whatever it may be, to post pictures and to promote brands in the cleverest and the most subtle ways possible. In a B2B context, it's a little bit different. You're absolutely right. And I mean, there's a couple of brands, in fact, several brands that are doing a great job of it. The idea is to get influencers and not use them in directly for sales enablement. It's better to use the influencers and to use the fields of expertise and the following of the influencers to achieve slightly different marketing objectives, such as thought leadership, engagement, for example. The Dell Trailblazers podcast, right, with Walter Isaacson, that's a great example. He talks about technology and business innovation in his podcast for every single episode, and Dell is hardly ever mentioned except to say, oh yeah, it's sponsored by Dell. So it's more of a halo effect, Dell doing something to help the listeners, to add value to the listeners in some way. Schneider Electric, another great example. They did this terrific series, I think it was called Horizons, where they did a series of roundtables with influencers like academics, analysts, government bodies around the world, where they just invited customers and just talked about how cities will be built 20 days. It's really hard to find people who are courageous enough to talk about what the world's going to look like 25 years from today. SAP does it. They have influencers at most of their customer events, and they use the social following of these influencers to get better visibility and a better bang for the buck, so to speak. So it's a subtle art, and the benefits are not so direct in terms of sales enablement, but I think there's a very, very strong place for influencer
do you
marketing.
think are the two opportunities for growth areas that you're the most excited? Let me start that again. So what are the two opportunities of growth areas that you're most excited about right now?
Okay, the first is voice. I think voice search, Google is expecting that by next year, half of all searches will be voice. I'm not sure the number will be that high, but there's no doubt that voice search is really taking off in a very big way. And this really changes the way companies must approach search optimized content, right? So no longer do we have if I come in the first page of search results, you don't have that. You have to be number one or nothing. You have to think about different ways in which you optimize for search, because your buyers and your audiences are going to be using natural language. So you can't really be looking at quick phrase searches. You need to really talk to your SEO team and think about how you can start engaging and start owning key terms, key phrases, and how you can make your impact where voice search is concerned. I could talk about this all day, but there's one more trend I think that I'd like to talk about, which is omni-channel engagement. Again, our B2C behaviors bleeding into how we make decisions and how we consume content in the B2B world. As consumers, again, we are absolutely used to, and we expect brands to talk to us consistently pre-sale and post-sale across a range of channels, don't we? Whether it is on social channels or through voice, through phone calls, through email, we want a consistent brand experience. It's the same thing when it comes to B2B tech brands as well. So your audiences want a very consistent, unified approach in terms of the way you talk to them, whether it's on email, whether it's content you provide for them on the website, gated content, social content, etc. And I believe that there is, the upside of taking the effort to do this is absolutely huge. I've read, 90% improvement in retention rates, in loyalty, in engagement levels. It's worth it. It's worth taking that effort to be consistent across channels, repurposing content so it works hard across different engagement channels, and providing an omni-channel kind of an experience to your audiences.
And finally, what would be your recommendation for B2B marketers to prioritize in either getting a handle on or implementing such an approach?
The most advice I can give in general for tech B2B content marketing is something that's really basic. It's been around for decades, and it is know the audience. Far too often we find that companies are getting into content marketing because they want, they recognize that buyer behaviors are changing. We spoke about the buyer journey, and they want to be relevant. They want to provide content for it. And it's tempting for marketers to just jump in and say, okay, let's do this content, we have this to say, we have that to say, without really thinking about what does your audience want? What are their priorities? Why are they engaging with the content? Where are they in the buyer circle, purchase cycle, right? And it is a fact that budgets are stretched. Sometimes brands don't have the budgets to do buyer persona research and all of that, and that's okay. Talking to sales, taking part, being there at customer events, trade shows, customer meetings, anything I think marketers can do to get a better handle on their audiences and what they are looking for through content is going to be extremely valuable, and it's really going to make the difference in terms of conversions, in terms of
Thank you ever so much for joining me today. If you enjoyed watching and you'd like to learn some more insights and wisdom from some of the greatest and most interesting minds in marketing every week, then please do subscribe now. You can subscribe via the iTunes, the Apple Podcast app, or visit the414.net for all other subscription options, as well as watching previous episodes. I'm James Rostance. Thank you for watching.